All right, welcome back to Dirty Hands of the Republic. Today we're going to talk about the shooting in Uvalde, and I believe we have a unique approach to what happened out there simply because my partner here, Joseph Fenwick, once again, my name is Tom Nixon. Now, he is a retired Houston police officer. I'm a former Houston police officer. And as we were going to discuss, Joseph here actually was in Uvalde, Texas. He was actually at Robb Elementary School. He attended the active shooter course there. I also believe you participated in some of the instruction. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. That was the second active shooter instructor school that I went to. I went to an active shooter instructor school 2007 here in Houston, put on by the Houston SWAT team, and then I wanted to try to teach for ALERT.
And what does ALERT stand for?
ALERT is Advanced Law Enforcement Rapid Response Training.
Okay.
And so it's basically how to deal with active shooters.
Okay.
And it's considered the gold standard. The FBI has now got their little fingers in it, and so they've changed it up a little bit. But they wanted me to go to the updated school since last time I took the instructor school was 2007. And keep in mind, I taught hundreds of classes in between 2007 and last year, July, is when I took the instructor class there in Uvalde.
And you and I have actually given the class together at like a church. I think it was at a church in Pasadena.
Yes.
Okay. And then I've given the class pursuant to some what's called OSHA regulation compliance classes. And so for that, I went to a company in Northwest Harris County, and then I've also taught the class in Florida, oddly enough. And it's that same curriculum with the what is it? Run, hide, fight.
Yeah.
Yeah. You were in Uvalde, Texas in what, July of 2021?
Yeah, July of last year.
All right.
And you were taking the active shooter instructor school, but I taught actually where they breached. That's what the class I taught to everybody was approaches and breaching at that school.
So just to be clear, you were actually at Robb Elementary School.
Yes.
In Uvalde, Texas. Okay. And you were there in attendance with officers from Zavala County.
Zavala County, DPS. There was a game warden there, and a bunch of Border Patrol and what they call it, Homeland Security guys, whatever the ICE.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And so what are the chances that some of the officers that were there that, I guess, 6 days ago now, were also in the class that you were in July 2021?
Well, I think the percentage would be pretty low that no one was there, out of that whole group.
Okay.
It was 20 students in the class.
Okay. And those was instruct the instructor. So this was a class to teach the instructors how to teach the class. It's a 40-hour class. It's a week-long class put on by ALERT to teach tactically inclined police officers how to teach the ALERT lesson plan. And my goal was to get a job and work for ALERT. I don't work for them. Just full disclosure, I don't work for ALERT, but I am a certified ALERT instructor. Okay, so how much time did you actually spend in Robb Elementary School?
40 hours. I mean, you're there. It's a full 8-hour day each time.
Okay, and so how much of that time during that 40 hours was spent teaching? Breaching a door, slicing the pie, so to speak, making entry on the classrooms, clearing the hallways and stuff like that.
Well, the whole time. The instruction goes tactical and medical. Tactical is approaches to the building, how to breach doors, like using a patrol car or shotgun or whatever, how to move down hallways to a room, and how to slice the room and how to enter the room, or slice the doorway, I should say, of the room, and then enter it to either search it or do a suspect takedown.
All right. So since you were there at the school for the class, and there's been a lot of talk about the block of instruction for active shooter, what did you learn, and what did the instructors in that class learn? What did they teach, and what did the other instructors learn?
Well, you learn the curriculum, which is move quickly towards the sound of gunfire. Unlike civilians who do run, hide, fight, you're supposed to run away first and then hide and then fight if you have to. Police officers are absolutely the exact opposite. police officers move quickly towards the sound of gunfire, isolate, distract, or neutralize a suspect. Okay, that is your mandate, to move in. And now the training is stuff. We'd say stop the killing. Okay, so we'd move into stop the killing. Now it's stop the killing, stop the dying. So they added a lot of medical to the class, which is real good stuff.
Okay.
It's real good stuff. But the attitude is prevalent from the instructors to the students. You move in, you move, you move, you go, you go. Okay, I was even called out one time for moving a little slowly. And I saw the guy and was trying to get a good Groucho walk, and so I could get a good shot on him. But they were like, "Hey, you need to move faster, faster, faster."
Were they using like paintball or?
Yeah, use Sims rounds, Sims guns. Yeah, they hurt.
So you get shot like with sim rounds in the school during the class.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. I've been shot with hundreds of Sims rounds, hundreds.
Okay. So how would you grade the reaction of the officers who arrived at the scene during this shooting?
Well, 4 minutes to get in, great. Okay. An hour to neutralize the suspect when people are dying, horrible. I don't know how else to say it. The curriculum is to move in quickly and get the suspect,
right,
and not to corral him in a classroom and wait while people are dying. The curriculum is now stop the killing and stop the dying.
And that's what the officers at Uvalde were taught.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
That's what everybody is taught now in active shooter, even if it's not from alert.
And that's the TCOL standard, correct?
Yeah, exactly.
Which stands for Texas Commission on Law Enforcement. It's the governing body in the state of Texas enacted by the state legislature some 50 years ago to create curriculum and to make sure that officers are properly trained throughout the state of Texas to the same standards. So that way, when multiple jurisdictions are working together, which at the Houston Police Department doesn't happen very often. But if you're in a small city, a small town, a large county, you're going to wind up working with other officers from other jurisdictions on the regular. And you're going to have the same mindset, the same training. So that way, no matter what agency you're with, when you come together at a scene, you all kind of understand what exactly needs to happen. And it really facilitates movement and the capture of suspects.
Yeah, alert, when they first formed, they were they realized the difference in training throughout departments in departments in Texas or the United States. And as you well know, we're both in HPD. Every division was like a different department.
Yeah, well,
every shift was different. Everything was different. So the training,
I can't tell you how many times I've heard that's not how we do it on night shift. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Bullets fly differently on night shift. Got it. Okay.
It's how we do it on early side evening. Late side guys. I don't know about you. Anyway, but they realized that people were not on the same page as far as training. Okay. The only page that everybody was on was make distance, call SWAT.
Yeah.
Okay. That was in the 80s, that was as you well know, because you took the academy in the 90s, there in Houston with me, and we were taught make distance, call SWAT.
And that went away after 9/11. I know. I remember because they started changing because you had several incidents of lone gunmen who, turned out to be radical Muslims that wanted to either attack, some church, some school, some recruiting station, some military recruiting station like in Tennessee or, in Florida.
In Arkansas.
In Arkansas. So consequently, departments started realizing, well, we have to treat these crazy lone gunmen differently, and you can't negotiate with crazy people. So this idea that you can negotiate with lone gunmen kind of went away, and it was replaced, I would say, around 2004, 2005 with get to and, engage the shooter. And I remember that change around 2004.
Yeah, it did. The Columbine shooting really changed a lot as far as our outlook. I mean, it took years after the Columbine to even convince people that active shooter was something that we wanted to teach.
But what's so unfortunate is either the training from 20 years ago or 30 years ago is so ingrained in people that, like at the Parkland school shooting, where the officer never wanted to go in, didn't. I mean, I think he ignored the cries for help from the students and just stayed outside while they were getting murdered.
He was a coward.
Yeah. Well, okay. So,
and another, I think it was a captain, started directing traffic around the area.
Oh, I recall that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that was, and Alert even changed their training because of such situations like that. And I believe it was caused by the Parkland, where they used to train, wait for backup if you can. Okay. Because it is impossible to search a room slowly or a building slowly by yourself.
Right.
Safely. Okay. But now they teach, if something's driving you, if you get to the school or you get to the building and you don't hear anything, then you stop and wait for backup. If you hear gunshots, you hear screaming, you hear hollering, move to the sounds of the gunfire or the violence. Right. Even if you're alone.
But that's how Uvalde officers were trained.
Yeah. Well, that's how everybody's been trained for years now.
Okay.
I mean, there is no excuse for saying I was not trained to do it.
I think the most disturbing part of this is when the officers, I guess, I don't know if they thought they were being clever, or I would love to interview the guys from the scene. They had one of the girls, I guess they asked one of the students, if you need help, cry out for help. And she did. And then she got shot. Okay. At that moment, it is my opinion personally, just my personal humble opinion. Anybody who was within the sound of that gunshot after that girl cried out for help and they didn't go in and shoot the guy, kill the bastard who murdered that girl, needs to be fired. In fact, not only should they be fired, their TCO license should be taken from them. They just shouldn't be police officers in the state of Texas, period. End of story. I don't care who you are. Don't care how long you've been on. Don't care how great you think you are. If you were within the sound of that girl's voice and you heard the gunshot and you didn't react, you didn't do anything, you deserve to lose your peace officer's license, not just your job, your peace officer's license. Go mop floors. Go deliver the mail, go do something else. You should not be a police officer, period.
Yes.
End of story.
I've been, as you know, I've been wrestling with this video for several days now. And I do realize that if you and I showed up, say at an active shooter, we rode together in Southwest, if we pulled up and they said there were 19 guys in the building, and they said, they don't need you. They got 19 people. We would probably go, okay, they got it. And then the sergeant had told us, and it depends on the sergeant. So, I mean, because we have, both of us, have ignored, directives at one time from an idiot.
Because you just know when you're getting a stupid order.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous.
Sorry, your order's dumb.
Exactly. We would just we wouldn't say anything. We would just not do it.
Well, no, I mean, just from my personal opinion, it was always their life is more important than your order. So I'm just gonna,
But anyway, if we were told, hey, go put up crime scene tape, okay, we probably would. Okay. Now, if we were told to keep a crowd back and somebody was trying to get into the building, we probably would stop them from doing it. But at what point do you say, okay, they haven't said the shooter's down yet? At what point do you continue to do this stuff and not demand answers or go in yourself? I mean, there's got to be a certain point.
Especially if you're, say, a U.S. Marshal and you don't answer to anybody there. You don't answer to any ISD commanders or Uvalde PD or Zavala County Sheriff. None of those people mean anything to you. They're just, whatever. They're just roadblocks or speed bumps at that way. You're a federal agent or something, or you're a DPS state trooper. You don't answer to anybody there because you're a state trooper. You're a completely different agency. Mm-hmm. It wouldn't matter. Well, we need people to stay out of the building. Oh yeah, good for you. Get out of my way.
Yeah.
Because if you're at some point, you have to ascertain whether or not this situation is getting resolved. Well, what are we doing? Well, we're standing in the hallway, and where's the shooter? Well, he's in that room. Okay, where are the kids? Well, they're also in that room. I mean, even if you're not in the hallway, every one of those classrooms has a window, which is what I wanted to ask you. Did all the classrooms have windows?
I think most of them did. I'm not sure if the one that he was in or not. I'm not sure which one he was in. There was, I think, one of the science labs didn't have many windows.
Because in one of the videos, they're breaking windows, getting kids out the window.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I see that.
And I applaud those guys, those officers. That's exactly, if you're not in front of the classroom and you're on the other side of you need to be breaking windows.
Do something.
Yeah. Do something to help. Don't just sit there and listen to children scream for their lives and listen to gunshots and do nothing, because that's what happened. We know that's what happened.
Yeah, I mean,
That is horrendous. But any of those officers that were in the hallway that knew shots were being fired in a classroom, knew there were kids in that classroom, and did not go in that classroom, should not be police officers.
Yeah,
I can't say that enough. They need to have their TCO licenses removed. And so there's two things I would like to make a point here. There's two things I'd like to see the state legislature change. They want to talk about gun control this, gun control that. No. We need to change the incentive matrix for police officers. Number one, they need to make cowardice or failure to take action, they need to make that a cause of action under the Texas Tort Claims Act. In the Civil Practices and Remedies Code, they need to add that cause of action. So if you're a citizen, you've called 911, you're expecting the police or firemen to do their job, to respond, to be quote unquote the first responder, and to assume the risk of a dangerous situation in order to help resolve it, which is the whole reason you exist as a police officer or as a fireman, and you don't, your agency needs to be financially responsible for what happens after your cowardice occurs. So that needs to be a cause of action under the Texas Tort Claims Act. Number two, what needs to happen is they need to create a review board for officers that, certainly implements certain standards. You don't want to make it an arbitrary decision, but some kind of tribunal that would review officers' TCO licenses. Because there are going to be times when things happen in agencies and say a deputy chief, a chief of police, a commander, a captain, or a lieutenant makes a decision, right? They will never be held accountable by their department, ever. No chief of police has ever been disciplined by their police department. It just doesn't happen. So the only way to hold a commander, the only way to hold someone in the command staff responsible is to be able to take away their TCO license. Because if you make it up the chain of command to the point that you are occupying a command position in a law enforcement agency, and it turns out you are completely incompetent, and not only are you incompetent, but you are dangerously incompetent, you don't need to have a TCO license. Your peace officer's license needs to be revoked. And there needs to be a method by which, through the state legislature, that a separate policing agency that, quote unquote, polices the police. But I'm not talking about street officers. The street officers, patrol officers, detectives, they are under a microscope of supervision in whatever agency they work. That's not who this is for. This is for people who are untouchable up the chain of command, and yet still hold, because they hold a much greater power over people, and they are far more unaccountable, like this chief of police in Uvalde. Now, he's not the chief of police. He's the chief of the independent school district, I guess, there in Uvalde.
Peter Arredondo.
Yeah. He will not be held accountable. He cannot be sued. Nothing will ever happen to him. I don't think that's right. I don't think we should live in a society that invests people with power without accountability. I believe in accountability from top to bottom, from the top to the bottom. The only way to make sure that happens is for the state legislature to cure that vacuum, because there is a vacuum of accountability at the top of law enforcement agencies. So the way that would be done is through the state legislature creating a tribunal of people who, based on the complaint of another licensed officer or a citizen about the conduct of someone who occupies a managerial position in a police department, that they have done something that the department either will not or cannot hold them accountable for. Because, for example, Art Acevedo, when he got out there and started protesting with the Black Lives Matter protesters, and his conduct, I think, contributed to and accelerated the
definitely
acts of vandalism that were being committed by the BLM protesters here in the medical center.
Mm-hmm.
Because based on his conduct, people went out and started throwing rocks at the windows of the skywalks between the hospitals and the medical center.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely emboldened them.
It was disgusting.
It really was.
And the Houston Police Department was incapable of holding him accountable for that. Well, the state of Texas needs to hold people accountable for that. And consequently, there's a tribunal that needs to be set up that takes every complaint. Not there, no, I don't want some filter mechanism there, with some atypical bureaucrat who and starts trying to cover for people, like we've seen with the FBI.
Well, the covering that was going on with this shooting, this Uvalde stuff, DPS was doing a song and dance trying to cover this whole thing up.
Oh yeah, trying to cover up Arredondo's.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's disgusting.
It was absolutely disgusting.
All right. Yeah. So there needs to be a method by which, outside of the purview of law enforcement, that law enforcement can be held accountable. The state legislature in Texas is the only political body that has the authority to do this. If they want, I will write the law for them because I know exactly where it needs to go. I know exactly where it needs to be inserted in the Civil Practices and Remedies Code, for one, under the Texas Tort Claims Act, and also in the Code of Criminal Procedure, and also through the TCOL regulations out of the local government code. So that's kind of where you have to, and under Chapter 143, really, which is the civil service protection that, officers have. You need to insert 2 or 3 paragraphs in Chapter 143 that set this up so that people in command staffs or command positions in law enforcement can be held accountable by people that have the power to remove their TCOL license, to remove their peace officer's license, because they shouldn't be police officers. This Arredondo guy should not be a police officer. Sorry. There was a time when even if the unexpected happened, you were still held accountable. For example, when Pearl Harbor was bombed, right? Mm-hmm. The admiral who was in charge of Pearl Harbor, legend has it, was hit by a spent round. And his reaction was, because it didn't penetrate his uniform, it was a spent round. So by the time it hit him, it was out of energy. But he replied by saying, it would have been better had it killed me, because he knew he was done. He knew, even though there was no way he could have prepared for that, he was still accountable for it, because your job is to be prepared for the unexpected. That's why you get paid 6 figures, right? That's why you get paid, $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 a year to be a chief of police, because you're supposed to use your mind, your imagination, your intelligence to expect the unexpected, prepare for the unexpected. But what further disgusts me is, in this case, not only had they expected it, they trained for it. Not only had they trained for it, they practiced it. They physically practiced at the very school where the shooter went, in the very classrooms that they had spent time and again practicing to stop an active shooter there. What's the point? What is the point of training and practicing and experimenting with different methods of stopping an active shooter in the very place the active shooter shows up? When it happens, you don't do it.
Yeah, I'm sure people are asking why he gave that order.
Cowardice.
And we don't mean cowardice because he wasn't there getting shot at. We mean a worse kind of cowardice. Afraid of losing his position, afraid of losing his job, afraid of a kid getting shot by a police officer. That's what he was afraid of.
It's like a contrived cowardice, going out of your way.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
To order people not to save children so you don't get in trouble.
It would be like a firefighting commander telling his firefighters approaching a burning building, don't go in that building. It's on fire.
Yeah.
That's why we're firemen. We are firemen to go in the burning building. We are firemen to assume that risk, to take on that danger of going into the burning building. Well, you might die. Yes. But I got to work a really cool job where I got to, sleep at the firehouse, work out. We barbecued a little bit. We watched television. We played some PlayStation, and we hung out. We had a really good time. And then the fire happened.
And that's what they do, by the way. Fire.
Yeah. You do.
Yes.
Anyway, so the fire happens. It's time to put on your equipment. It's time to go to work. Yes, it's going to be risky, and yes, you might die. But you got to have a good time before, and so that it all evens out.
Oh, and I've seen firemen when they call it attack of fire. They're happy. They love it. They do. They love it. But back to what you were saying, what would happen if a firefighter had not gone into a building because it was on fire?
You get fired.
Yeah, I mean, it'd probably be like, what?
I mean, I guess I should say terminated because
you're fired.
Yeah, yeah. Fire the firefighter. Okay. No, I mean,
you would be terminated. You would not have a job.
Yes.
Because it's what you're paid to do. You're paid to do it. And police officers at the scene, I don't know what they're saying, and I wasn't there. Okay. I wasn't there. I don't know. But at what point?
To be there. I don't have to be there to know because I've been in that situation.
Well, I know you and I have both, and we're not saying I'd have done it this way because Ida's a bad mofo. Ida kicked your ass. Well, Ida, he's something else. We have been there. In my case, it was a bank robbery in Southwest Houston. And the guy surrendered. Mm-hmm. Great, but we were itching to get there. I mean, I was pulling I was code 1, pulling into the parking lot, jumping out of my patrol car, and I think it was the 3 officers who arrived before me had already attacked the doors, and as they're going in, the guy just surrendered. Okay, all right, and it dropped his weapon, and it was over. But we were all itching to get in there. Yeah,
every last one of us, go, and the officers who arrived before me had and confronted the guy, and they were they really wanted to shoot him really bad, and he surrendered. So what I'm suggesting to you is that's the kind of people you want on your police department, the people who are itching for that confrontation with evil, because that's what you're doing. You're confronting evil. And if you're not itching to do that, you should not be a police officer. If you don't aspire to confront evil on a daily basis, you have no need to be a police officer. We don't need you on the department. And consequently, we have unfortunately flooded our departments for one reason or another with people who shouldn't be there. Mm-hmm. For example, when that HPD sergeant was murdered in 15 District, Harold Preston. The officer there, shots
Taylor.
Yeah, shots rang out, and she ran from the scene.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand she got her job back.
Yep.
With a 20-day suspension. But she's been reinstated to the department. And if I'm not mistaken, she's going to be in recruiting.
Yeah.
Now, we're probably going to do another video on that separately, but I mean, I'm just trying to incorporate that into the conversation because we now have people like that on the department. What would someone like her at Robb Elementary School do? The exact same thing that all these other people did.
Exact same thing. And that's the decision matrix that we're talking about. How is it that a person who runs away and allows a fellow officer to be killed, I can understand the chief has to take her back. Okay, if she won an arbitration,
the arbitrator gave her job back. Yeah,
who made the decision to put her in recruiting? It's a method B position, meaning you have to go out for it. You have to apply. You have to interview. You have to have a writing sample. You have to be picked
from a board of interviews.
Yeah, from a bunch of interviewers.
Yeah.
Do you think that happened with her?
No.
Did they pick her?
No,
that didn't happen. She was sent, and this happens a lot in police departments. I know it does in HPD. People are sent to these method B positions.
And the best part is she'll get unlimited overtime.
Well, yeah, and she will work in recruiting. The person who was fired for running.
The person fired for cowardice will be picking the next group of
is that
officers.
Is that a good decision?
No, that's a terrible decision.
And
she should probably work the property room for the rest of her life.
Well, that's where she should be. No extra jobs. She's a coward.
Yeah.
She ran away.
And Sergeant Preston is dead because of it, I believe. Because from what I understand, the timeline works out that he was still alive when she left the scene. And the suspect then exited the apartment, walked up to Preston, and shot him in the head. That's what I understand happened. I'm still waiting for the body camera video to come out. I'm hoping I can get it. I've already filed one FOIA request for it, but it was denied, and the Attorney General isn't going to help me get it released. But that's what I understand happened. Nevertheless,
And there's a lot of decisions are made from police departments by people like.
What I am hoping to do, though, is to get body camera video from Uvalde. I'm just trying to figure out who is going to wind up having it.
Yeah, good luck with that.
I mean,
they'll never give it up.
You don't think?
I don't know.
Well, the suspect's dead, so there's no active prosecution. There can't be.
Yeah.
So in the absence of an active prosecution, I think they have to turn over the body camera video. So
we hope.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out who to FOIA request it from.
They have to. They may be required to.
Well, we have to, but in 10 years.
Yeah, exactly. We have to, but we're not gonna.
Yeah. But, so
and what we're talking about here
happens.
are decisions made by police chiefs, police departments. For instance, Acevedo did this thing about what he called it: time, distance, numbers, cover, and concealment. Okay, time, distance, numbers, cover, and concealment.
Yeah, that was avocado.
Yeah, that was. He didn't make that up, but I mean that's one of the tactics that we're supposed to use to. Basically, it's to de-escalate.
Yeah, but where do you think that tactic comes from?
Well, it's so you don't shoot people.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, who do you think wrote it?
I have no idea.
Some lawyer.
Oh,
some goddamn lawyer wrote that. I guarantee you, because all they care about is liability, potential liability. We have to do everything we can to diminish our liability because we don't want to get sued. Any police department that is preoccupied with the notion of avoiding liability shouldn't be a police department.
Well, my point is that they say these things and it sounds good. It sounds like a proper tactic. Use time, distance, meaning back off, that way you have more. He has a harder time getting to you. Time, use the time that give him more time to cool down or whatever it is. Cover and concealment. These are things they want you to run away, basically.
Yeah.
They want you to run. And then when she did run away, she got fired. Okay. Well, what did you train her to do? Train her to run away. It's so these people are getting this really messed up mixed signals. Now, I don't think that she was confused. I think she was scared. And that's the reason she ran.
Yeah, she was scared.
She was a coward. She ran in between the buildings and she didn't come back, even when other officers were there. She didn't come back. And so, but because
ultimately this guy was arrested. So clearly some officers got there and arrested.
Yeah, so exactly. So
he didn't volunteer himself into the backseat of a patrol car.
Yeah. And they kept that quiet for a long time because I was trying to find out from people on the department who she was. And
you know what, though? She should be thankful she didn't express an opinion that somebody in the command staff found offensive, because God forbid you express an opinion. You can get fired for that.
Yeah.
And in fact, the district court will dismiss your case. The Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals will dismiss your case. The Supreme Court will refuse to hear it. Never express an opinion that the command staff finds offensive.
Well, and this goes back to
if one of your sergeants is about to be murdered and you run away and let that murder happen, that's okay. That is perfectly fine. If you stand by while one of your fellow officers is murdered, that is okay, as long as you don't express an opinion about it.
See, Tom was fired for expressing an opinion on the news. Okay, he expressed an opinion on the news, and Harold Hurt took umbrage.
Yes, great personal umbrage.
Yeah, umbrage with the decision that he made. But what we're trying to do is kind of connect these together.
I'm juxtaposing two irrational outcomes.
Isn't that what I said? Put them together.
I'm sorry. Yes. Yes.
Just not as perspicuously.
Yeah. Exactly.
We're trying to
it's
tell
okay
you.
it's okay if you stand by while people get murdered. It's okay to stand by while children get murdered. While children are being murdered by an active shooter, it's okay to stand by and do nothing. You can't be sued for that. You can't be fired for it. However, if you express an opinion, you're done. Okay. We've said that enough. Again, Governor Abbott, if you ever happen to see this video, I can only hope you do. I don't know how much free time you have. Maybe sometime late at night when you're laying in bed, you can't go to sleep, put on YouTube, put on Dirty Hands of the Republic. We can talk. And you will hear my voice and you will listen to me when I say we need to remove the peace officers' licenses of anybody involved in this tragedy. That is the only way to hold them accountable. Their departments will not hold them accountable. You know it, and I know it. And so We can work together. Call me. I'll help you for free. I'll do it pro bono. And we must hold these people accountable who stood by listening to the cries of children while they were being murdered and did nothing. That is the definition of a tragedy. And it should never be allowed to happen again. And the only way to do that is to inculcate into the system the message to every individual peace officer in the state of Texas. If you even dare commit an act of cowardice, you will never be a police officer in the state of Texas again. Period. Joseph?
For the police officers out there who are saying you weren't there, you don't know what happened, you shouldn't be bad-mouthing other officers, and the training says go quickly. They went quickly, but then they stopped.
Hey man, they
didn't do what they were supposed to do, and that's what we're saying.
I've had my come to Jesus moments where, you're in the middle of a tropical storm, say Tropical Storm Allison, you were with 5 other buddies, say Sergeant Bean, Matt May, Louis Hernandez, who else was out there? I was out there, and we all went into
Lumpy was out there too. Right?
Who?
Lumpy?
Michael Lumpkin. Yeah, of course. Michael Lumpkin. Yeah, he got the Medal of Valor while the rest of us got life-saving.
A day off. Bring out of your beat.
Yeah, I know, right?
We're not kidding.
I know.
I know a guy who got a suspension the day after he got a medal. Okay, and he got it for being out of his beat when he saved people.
Yeah, Michael Lumpkin. And then there was one other guy, and I can't remember his name. I've got to look it up. But anyway, we waded into the bayou during the middle of a tropical storm to save some guys, or try to pull these guys out before they drowned to death. You have to be willing to do that. You have to be willing to take those unique set of circumstances of high risk, high probability of death, because one of the guys, Chad Guerin was his name, that we were trying to save, he wound up drowning right in front of us. Matt May was reaching out for him, and Sergeant Bean grabbed him and said, "Oh, no, you're not going there." And I think Matt May would have probably gotten sucked into this little vortex created by the manhole that was, pulling water down. Because the force of the bayou causes these vortex with the manhole covers. That's what it pushes the manhole cover off, and then it creates this vortex into the manhole. It's very interesting to watch. It's a really cool thing to see. Well, I mean, of course, watching somebody get pulled down into it is not cool, but the effects of physics itself, are interesting. And Matt May was going for the kid, and Sergeant Bean grabbed him by the collar and said, "No, you're not going." And of course, I think I was grabbing, I think it was either Louis Hernandez or Michael Lumpkin, as they were trying to come back out of the bayou to keep them from getting pulled into the vortex. It was an interesting night, but nevertheless, you have to be willing to take those risks. And it doesn't always mean getting shot at. Yeah. Sometimes it means risk getting burned to death in a burning apartment complex, say in the 5800 block of Bissonnette in Southwest Houston, right? Apartments on fire, and you and another guy, Mike Perez, Rob Clausen, Kelly Huey, are responding to this scene, and you just start kicking in doors and pulling people out of the apartment complex before they burn to death because the fire department's not there yet. And you have to be willing to do that. If not, don't be a police officer. So it's not even necessarily always getting shot at. Sometimes it's running into a burning building. Sometimes it's running into a high water rescue out of a bayou in the middle of a tropical storm.
Sometimes it's risking punishment because you defied an order and went ahead and saved children.
Right. You just have to do it.
That's a risk too. Sure, but that's something that you should be willing to do.
Yeah, and you have to weigh the effect of the orders you're given. If the orders you're given are going to result in the death of innocent people or children, you ignore that order. You have a higher calling. God put you there to make a decision. God put you there to assume a risk. He put you there in that situation. And so now it's upon you, not your commander on the radio a mile away or 2 miles away. No, God put you there to try to insert you into that, hoping, giving you the opportunity to exercise your free will to either risk your life to save life or not. And if you choose not to do so, then you're a coward.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't need you. We don't need you. We don't need your commander either, but we don't need you. So that's where I'm coming from.
I agree.
All right. So thanks for joining us today here on the Dirty Hands of the Republic. We'll see you in the next video. Like and subscribe. We always appreciate it.